Welcome to the Gamut of Performance Podcast, Episode 5. On this episode of the podcast, I get to talk to Coach Mike Vorkapich, who is the Associate Head Strength and Conditioning Coach and Director of Sports Science for Michigan State University Athletics. Coach Vorkapich and I get into talking about training ice hockey and golf and the nuances of each of those sports and the similarities between the two. We also get into how and why he decided to pursue sports science and how it's benefited him and his department as a whole. Coach Vorkapich has a wealth of knowledge on various topics, so without further ado, here's Coach Mike Vorkapich. Coach Vorkapich, thanks for being on with us today. How you doing?
Not bad, Juan. Yourself?
Doing well. Oh, no problem. It's my pleasure. You know, I've been looking forward to talking to you for a while. And so for the listeners that are just tuning in, would you mind just kind of telling us a little bit of your background and how you ended up getting into the profession?
Sure. My original plan was to be a high school teacher, a phys ed teacher, and coach, and maybe become a high school athletic director after I graduated.
Okay.
I was a walk-on football player here at Michigan State, and so when I graduated, I was already in grad school in sport administration.
Okay.
And I approached Ken Manny, who had just gotten hired by Nick Saban. Here at Michigan State. He's a new strength coach coming in. He was not my college strength coach.
Okay.
And I saw that, how he was doing things, and I was kind of like, where was this guy the last 4 years? Like, I felt like I had missed out. So
Yeah.
I'd expressed an interest in working with him as a GA. He had already had a couple guys lined up, for that since later in that summer and the fall. But I got a phone call from him literally the day before school started that fall semester in 95.
Okay.
And he was looking for a guy.
Oh, wow, okay.
And so I went in that Sunday night and talked to him in the office, and came back Monday, and I told him I wanted to do it. I was all lined up to be the golf grad assistant, for the kinesiology department, and teaching the golf class, which is nothing more than taking attendance and administering the quizzes. But with Coach Manning wanting the commitment, pretty much 60 hours a week, for 2 years. And I was all in. I wanted to do it. The way I looked at it, it's kind of, this is right up my alley. I wanted to be a phys ed teacher, and this was essentially being a phys ed teacher.
No, that's a great situation.
I didn't realize it until probably a year into the assistantship that I wanted to make it my career. A lot had happened. At the time, Ken was the only strength coach at Michigan State.
Okay.
And with 2 GAs, so that was our staff my first year. And then Tim Wakeham was hired my second year as a GA.
Okay.
So that left us with 2 full-time and 2 GAs. That was the staff for the first 2 years here under Coach Manning.
Okay. Fair enough. I mean, hey, however you can get in, right? You get in. That's what counts. So awesome. So obviously Michigan State has experienced like a lot of success across the board in athletics, right? So what are some of the central tenets of a championship culture, and what are some steps that strength coaches can do in the everyday setting to help push their department in that direction?
I think first and foremost, our school and our administration has done a heck of a job hiring sport coaches.
Okay.
Whether you look at, Mark D'Antonio, Tom Izzo, Stacey Slobodnik-Stoll, our women's golf coach. So you can go down the line, and they've hired solid people in those leadership positions. Without them, obviously they're the ones that set the standards for their programs, and that's what we follow. Okay. And we try to uphold we uphold those standards that they set for each of their teams. As strength conditioning coaches. So really, and I've always said this: the success starts with the head coach of the program. It doesn't start with the strength coach or the strength program. It's all about the head coach. And when you have head coaches like that are demanding, yet empathetic, and have an ear and listen and take everything in before they make decisions. I mean, it makes a great effect on the program. And egos. Everybody puts their egos aside. For Michigan State.
No, I like that, and that's a good point. I want to touch on that, right? So at the beginning, you said it's all about the head coach, right? And they set the culture. So I feel like a lot of young strength coaches are trying to set their own culture, right? And so, like you said before, there's egos butting heads, and so that's just taken away. So I think that's really important that everyone, focuses on. It's about what the head coach wants, right?
Absolutely. I feel like as a strength coach, we are staff members. We are members of that sport coach's staff. You report to the head coach. You deal with the head coach. And that kind of, I know I'm going to jump a little bit ahead with the sports science piece, but that was one of the biggest differences that I've learned being in this role as director of sports science. I was fortunate enough to visit Australia a couple of years ago, and really learned that they're a very athlete-centric community in terms of dealing with their athlete. The athlete's centered, and everybody is around. Everybody has a voice sitting around the table, meaning the head coach, the physical therapist, the doctors, the dietitians, the strength coach, and so forth. The sports scientists.
Yeah.
Here it's kind of pretty much a coach-centric program in North America, in the U.S. especially.
Yeah.
And everything goes through the head coach, and they make the decisions on everything. So it's a little bit different setup, but I think as everybody puts their egos aside, it kind of, it helps with the decision-making process and moving forward.
Yeah.
Really, ultimately, I say it's a coach-centric, environment that we work in, but it's really all about the athletes.
Yeah. No, and I think you mentioned another interesting point, right? So you said, as strength and conditioning coaches, we are kind of staff of the sport coaches, right? So we kind of report to them. So how does that play out with being a member of the staff in your own department, right? Because obviously there's a give and take, and you need to be able to manage the weight room, right? So how does that play, say, in smaller departments, of being able to be loyal to your department but also loyal to a sport coach?
If I have your question correct, I don't think there's a real big issue there. I think as a strength staff, we've always been pretty good about collaborating with each other, running ideas by each other. Coach Manny's been great that way, from putting the onus on us to own the teams we work with, have that sense of ownership that we're working with them, we're the strength coaches for them. We don't have to run everything and anything by him. Ultimately, it comes, does go through him.
No, I like that. Okay.
But at the same sense, he's always been secure enough with himself to, to let us do our jobs.
Yeah. No, that's important. I like that. Okay.
And that goes back to where with the sport coaches. Hopefully, we're working with sport coaches that actually have that trust in us as well. To allow us to do our jobs too. Yeah.
So everyone's just communicating, and it's we're building relationships, right? It always goes back to that. So that's a good point. Okay. So you've worked with a lot of sports at MSU, right? So one of the sports, right, ice hockey, I'm really interested because I haven't necessarily had the exposure to a school that's had an ice hockey team. So how did you get into training ice hockey and golf, and what's your approach to training those teams? Like, what makes you unique?
It's kind of funny because when I first started out, this wasn't about, hey, I want to get into this sport, I want to get into that sport. I just wanted to get in the field.
Okay, yeah.
Strength conditioning. And like I said earlier, when I first started, it was Ken Manny, myself, and another grad assistant. So, we had split it up. The other DA, Brian Wilt, he had ice hockey. I had men's and women's basketball.
Okay.
That's just the way it worked. I happen to be Canadian, and I grew up playing hockey as well. Okay. Sports I played growing up.
Yeah.
So that was just irony.
Yeah.
I left for a year and a half, and I was working for Mickey Marotti at Cincinnati and at Notre Dame. And then this job opened back up. And one of the things, had I stayed with him at Notre Dame, I would have been working with ice hockey as well.
Okay.
I got to know Dave Poulin and his staff very well.
Yeah.
Just kind of something I always had in the back of my mind. Like, I always liked the work ethic of the hockey players, here at Michigan State, even when I was in college. They were a bunch of, great athletes who worked hard, and they were kind of, it was a championship program under Ron Mason here. So to come back to Michigan State and get that opportunity when I came back in a full-time role, I relished at the chance. So when I came back, once again, it's still a small staff, and it was a full-time position working with men's and women's basketball and hockey, and I was the football assistant.
Okay. So
it was kind of revolving through all those sports. So I go back to the sport coaches. I picked my coaches well. I had Tom Izzo, Karen Langland, and Ron Mason to work with.
Yeah.
And
it's an all-star staff. Yeah.
Nick Saban was the football coach here at the time too.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Pretty good group of head coaches to work for.
Yeah, that's really nice. Okay.
So really, I say it wasn't by choice, but it was definitely by chance. And I made the best of it, and enjoy working with the sport. Yeah.
No, I like it. So let's unpack that ice hockey a little bit, right? So when you're training them, so what's different with training ice hockey other than the fact that they're on ice and on skates, right? So what did they need as far as like in their training programs?
I think people get carried away with. I'm not going to get on the tangent of sports specificity, but people get carried away with that because you know what? there's only so many ways to train your hips. That's going to be some sort of variations of a squat.
Yeah.
You know, some sort of hamstring exercises, RDL, glute ham.
Yeah.
You know, some sort of lunging or RFE, single leg squats, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Leg pressing. Mm-hmm. So you have these different exercises, different variations, and I'll tweak mine. I've always been a guy that I don't consider myself an extremist. I think there's people out there that are extreme in the tools that they use or how they set up workouts.
Yeah.
I've always just liked a variety of equipment to use.
Okay.
And I've always liked to do some some bilateral training, meaning squatting, leg pressing, but also, you know, single leg work, whether it's a single leg deadlift, RFE squat, lunges, that kind of thing. So I like to do a combination of both, and I always have.
Okay.
You know, so I don't know if that's not really specific to hockey because I think that works well with basketball too.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
And other sports, plyometrics included with that. So I think the one thing that separates a lot of times where you can make a distinction or for specificity is using the lingo, relate it to something they do on the ice. Okay. You know, whether it's a lunge and I want your chest over your knee. Yeah. You know, kind of like your skate stride and keeping a good knee bend, that kind of thing. But one of the bigger things, it's not so much the strength training aspect as it is the conditioning. Okay. Typically in hockey, we have 40-second shifts. It's unlike football where you might have a 7-second play. Yeah. You know. So in 40-second shifts, it's not a 40-second sprint. It's 40 seconds of a lot of accelerations and decelerations within that shift time. Yeah. And usually you might have, you know, you might be on the bench for 2 shifts. You know, some guys are on the bench longer. Some guys get quick rest and back out on the ice. So you have to plan accordingly, you know, for the energy systems that way. So we'll do a lot of sprint work in the summer. Okay. Whether that's, you know, short sprint ladders, sleds, treadmill sprints, that kind of thing. Okay, so just a varied approach. No, I like it. Yep. I like it. When training camp starts, the players, the whole team gets back here in July and August, and they'll get on the ice, and we'll really ramp up our conditioning program on the ice at the end of September, at the end of August going into September. Okay. For training. So. And then is the stuff on the ice, is it kind of similar, like interval type stuff, or like what's it look like on the ice? We'll do some interval type stuff. You know, some stopping, starting working their edges, kind of like a little bit of a power skating approach at the beginning, but really working their edges, getting them across their feet over. We don't want them gliding out on the ice from a conditioning standpoint. We want them moving their feet. So that's what we're going to emphasize. No, that makes sense. Okay. And then touching on the golf piece, right? So a lot of coaches are pushing for like TPI strength coaches, or they're going out to someone that's TPI certified. So what's your take on TPI? Do you implement it? And then do you use it, if you do implement it, do you use it with other sports like, say, hockey, for example? Yeah, no, I think TPI does a great job promoting the health and efficiency for golfers. You know, one of the things we do, me personally, I'm not TPI certified. Okay. We have talked about that with our golf coaches, getting that done. Yeah. You know the way it is, being in colleges when you work with multiple teams, it's like, when is that lull in the action where you can actually go? You know, and do that. So, but there's a lot of things that we incorporate from that program through the ability side of things. Okay. Through strength training side of things, and they're very, you know what, golf and hockey are 2 sports. It's a highly rotational sport. Yeah. You know, so you know there's a lot of similarities there too. So we take those things into consideration as well. Okay. No, that makes sense. I mean, TPI I think TPI is great. It's expensive, and it's like, you know what I mean? Just like you said, it's hard to find the time to do that. But like, if it was more accessible, I would, you know, love to jump into it as well. So, no, I like that. I've always looked at it, and it's the same philosophy. Just having fit individuals. Yeah. You know, the way I look at it, our golfers have to be able to play 3 days in a row. Yeah. And I want them to feel good after that 3rd round. That, you know what, and I kind of say this jokingly, I know there's not a 4th round, but if they had to play tiebreaker holes or a 4th round, they should feel good going into that, because when you feel good and you're in shape, you're probably going to make better decisions. Yeah. You know, if you're tired and drained, you know, you're probably going to make bad decisions. Maybe it's going to club short or not swinging, you know, swinging through on something, making a bad decision, and you have an errant shot. So as much as it is physical, it is mental of that sport. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit, right? So
Obviously, right, we have a strength program and there's only so many things we could do, right? But what about our conditioning? Are you guys like pulling sleds, or what's that look like for you guys for golf?
With golf, that's a funny thing. You're walking, say, 3.5 to 4 hours or so.
Yeah.
In the actual sport itself, and you're swinging a club every couple hundred yards or whatever. But the thing is, we're not going to walk our athletes for 3 to 4 hours every time they play.
Yeah.
So we can accomplish that, by doing interval type work.
Okay.
Conditioning wise, to get the heart rate up.
Uh-huh.
Because while they're resting, it's I think a misnomer is if you're standing around in between your sprints, you're not working aerobically.
Yeah.
You got to look at it from your heart perspective. The heart rate is coming down. Now you're in that aerobic training zone in between sprints.
Yeah.
And you get back up. So your heart is working.
Okay.
The way we want it to.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll do interval type works, whether that's sprints on the treadmill, spin bike routines.
Okay.
Intervals on the field. I have had them push sleds before. That kind of thing. So we do get a variety of working with the golfers.
No, I like that. That's good. No, that's good. And that's the difference between the higher level golfers, right, and the ones that think that they don't have to ever condition.
I'm really fortunate enough to work with two excellent coaches, and Stacy Slobodnik-Stoll and Casey Lubon, that they emphasize it. Their kids are in here. It's consistency.
Yeah.
If the kids are consistent in here, and they like it, they enjoy it. We make it about fitness, and it's lifelong fitness. It's not just about them and their sport and teaching good habits when they leave here. So that's part of it as well. Yeah, no,
I really like that. I like that. Okay. So in addition to being the associate head strength and conditioning coach, right, you're also the director of sports science. So how did you end up getting into sports science, and how do you use it to raise your department?
I've always wanted to kind of dive into the administrative side of things with our department. Yeah. And this was one area that we still hadn't really gone into.
Yeah.
Our senior associate AD, Jim Pignataro, he oversees strength conditioning and athletic medicine as well. Jim and I had talked about it and kind of got it that way. So when I came back into football, back over here working as an assistant, that was one area where we could really take off on and look into the technology side of things, being GPS, heart rate monitors, that kind of thing. And we've done that with 5 of our teams. Pushing a little bit more as we move forward to expand the role in the department that way. But it's also educating our athletes and educating our coaches on what we do and why we do it.
Okay.
So it was kind of a need and a want, a need of the department and a want by me to kind of to go that way. And over time it'll grow and get better. And I think it's important when you look at from recovery modalities to overtraining. It's commonality amongst sports. You get a lot of coaches who do overtrain their kids. And not only that, the kids overtrain themselves because they're always doing extra.
Most definitely.
So more isn't always better.
Yeah, and that's kids need to realize that. They're I got an extra workout, and it's like, well, you didn't eat all day, you didn't sleep, and you did trashly in your first workout, right? So why are we doing? We got to address certain things first. So no, that's important. That's important. Okay, so you've been at MSU for a while, right? Over 20 years, right? And so what made you want to add that skill set after you've been there for so long?
I think it's an appreciation of everybody here at Michigan State, appreciation of all the programs, what they're trying to accomplish. I don't think I ever went into this job saying, hey, I want to be a football guy or a basketball guy or hockey, initially, and I've always enjoyed working with a variety of athletes across the board, regardless of sport. So that was one way I could kind of keep involved with multiple programs, if you would.
Yeah.
It just sort of happened. I don't think I was really looking to reinvent myself, but I've always done things. I'm not saying this is the right way of going about my business in the weight room, but I always felt I want to change up workout plans because I'm getting bored with them. Sometimes if I'm bored, chances are the kids are bored too.
Yeah.
So to change some things up, I think variety is a key that a lot of people forget about. They just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Well, I think you have to be willing to learn. Have to be willing to make changes for the better of the program as time goes on, whether that's something you're doing from an exercise programming standpoint or equipment standpoint, that kind of thing. So
okay.
I think it's just the being open.
Yeah.
I think my personality kind of fits that role in terms of being open, listening, and being willing to try new things, that kind of thing. So
yeah,
I don't know if I call it reinventing myself.
Okay.
Just kind of,
just kind of growing,
keeping myself motivated. Yeah, growth.
Yeah.
Job growth.
Okay, good. No, that's good. So since you've been there for so long, what advice would you have for strength coaches that, a lot of young strength coaches are just getting a job just so they can jump to the next job, so they can jump to the next one, So what advice would you have for a coach with that kind of mindset or that kind of ambition?
I got lucky.
Uh-huh.
I ended up where I wanted to be early on.
Okay.
It was alma mater. It's close to my family. That kind of thing. So from that standpoint, I don't really understand the need or the want to jump jobs left and right. Now, the one thing I did do when I was working for Mickey Marotti at University of Cincinnati, Mickey just left for Notre Dame, and there was a little bit of a gap in there where we were kind of, myself and the other assistants were running, the program there together, and in came Tim Swanger, who Cincinnati hired at the time. So I was working for him for a bit. I had 3 different opportunities that came about shortly after that. One was to be a basketball strength coach at a smaller conference. Another one was to be a basketball strength coach in the ACC, and another one was to be a, I'll say the kind of like a low assistant on the totem pole at University of Notre Dame working for Michigan. Yeah. And I kind of looked at the 3 different positions, and I wasn't looking like, oh, hey, it's Notre Dame, I want to go there, or or this job pays the most. And that job.
Yeah.
The Notre Dame job paid the least out of the 3. It wasn't the most glorified of the 3.
Yeah.
But I looked at it. Who am I working with in terms of my boss?
Yeah.
Meaning, who am I working with in terms of the sports, and what is going to be best on my resume?
Yeah.
To make that next move in say 5 years down the road. And I felt my opportunity at Notre Dame working for Mickey Marotti, that was going to be my best opportunity to make a move professionally, and that's why I did it. I wasn't looking just for the bigger paycheck. I think people go into jobs for all the wrong reasons. Yeah. And you know what? More money can bring more problems. There can be misery in that job for whatever reason you don't know going in. So do what's best for you, your family, and the right career move. Don't always look at the dollar signs.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because a lot of young strength coaches aren't doing that research, right? They're chasing the logo, so they apply to a job just to get the name, whereas it could be a terrible experience, but they're like, oh, but I got the logo, but it's not necessarily just that. So that's really important to keep in mind. I like that. Okay, so as an associate head strength and conditioning coach, what is your philosophy to managing a staff? And then how does that differ with your philosophy for training athletes? Like, what's your philosophy on that?
With staff, I think the biggest thing is collaboration. You have to allow people to have ownership in what they're doing and take input and listen. Yeah. I think that's our biggest thing. Well, with our staff members, that starts with Ken Manny. And trickles on down. Even with our interns, we want them to feel important. As part of it, they're gonna, whether they're training in 1 or 2 athletes, one-on-one, or if it's going to be, you're making up your workout for that day. Give them a choice. Hey, do you want this station or that station, or do you want, what would you like to see? And obviously, they need to earn that too as time goes on. But you just make people feel important. Okay. I think that develops some ownership. Yeah. As far as training athletes, we just put together a comprehensive plan, neck on down to ankles. Yeah. Regardless of the tools that we're using in the weight room, it doesn't matter. We want to train our athletes hard and progress either in the weight or the reps that we're doing, and get stronger. Now, obviously, it's going to be a balanced attack, a balanced comprehensive program, but it's also looking at the neck up too, meaning, from the mental approach. I'm kind of a big believer that the strength conditioning program, and I'm gonna even have disagreements on our staff with this. that our strength conditioning program isn't about making people tougher.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah. No, that's good.
I think what we do as strength coaches exposes people for what they are.
Yeah.
Meaning, when there's something difficult that they're brought, that's brought to the table as far as an exercise goes or something, how does the kid respond?
Yeah.
Coach Marotti always says it's about the fight or flight response. And that's what we're going to see. Is a kid going to fight and dig down?
Yeah.
And give its all, give his or her all, or are they going to, turtle?
Yeah.
And that's really, and is that the goal of the program, to expose people? No, I think it just happens over time.
Yeah.
I had a talk with one coach yesterday, just talking about different athletes, and it's like, that's what we see in here.
Yeah.
Tim Wakeham uses the term of the unvarnished truth. We see a lot of times we'll see the unvarnished truth with an athlete. It's kind of like the head coach is like mom or dad.
Yeah, yeah.
We're more like the uncles or brothers, aunts, sisters, whatever, that they're going to talk to a little bit more, relate to, and they're going to be a little bit more truthful around us in terms of who they are. So we're going to see them if they got a good attitude, a bad attitude, a good work ethic, a bad work ethic, that kind of thing. So that's kind of my tangent on that, the mental toughness piece. But it's it's just coming back to keeping a balanced, comprehensive plan of attack in the weight room.
Okay. No, that's very important, and not enough people have a balanced, like, comprehensive thing, you know what I mean? Like, as far as, like, even just looking at, like, if we're training certain push to pull ratio, you know what I mean? A lot of stuff gets overlooked.
Exactly.
So that's very important. Kind of with that, right? So we touched on some interns a little bit. So what advice would you have for young strength coaches that are either trying to get a foothold in the field or who are trying to advance and kind of, like, leave their mark,
My biggest thing, and I wasn't smart enough to know that I should have volunteered off the bat. The first time I approached Coach Manning was in the summer, and I was already, like I said, a grad assistant in the kinesiology department, and I went to him about being a GA, and he said he already had a couple guys lined up, and it didn't even dawn on me. Back in 1995 to say, hey, can I volunteer, Coach? Nobody said anything to me. I didn't have that mentorship. To me, that's the way to get in the door. Even if it's just a visit. If you're close to the university or a few different schools, colleges, pro teams, even if it's early on, just say, hey, can I shadow you? Come and watch. And then you know what? People get to know you and they start to trust you. And okay, we can see you working here as an intern. Come on in. Maybe it's for credit. I get some university credits for it, that kind of thing. That's how you get to you got to build a relationship. Networking is more than just going to a conference and getting a business card. You have to get to know people and develop those relationships with them, because who am I going to call if I have a job open here? We're going to call people that we know in the profession. Say, hey, do you have anybody on your staff, or do you know somebody that's a good one? And that's how it. Or it's going to be somebody that already had worked for us as a grad assistant. That we already know what they're like. So. That's how that's how you get your foot in the door and really approach and build those relationships.
It all goes back to building relationships, right? Always, like everything. So it's crazy how it works. I love it. So what projects are you working on now, and what should people look out from you in the near future?
I think our biggest thing is really hopefully development of getting more data analysts involved with us, whether that's tapping those resources in other departments on campus, or in over time developing sports scientists to come out of Michigan State. I think people here in the U.S., I think we need to do a better job of what these sports scientists are bringing to the table from Australia, from Europe. They're coming in here probably with the idea of, hey, what I'm saying is important, and here you go, Coach, this is what I'm telling you need to do. Well, on the flip side, the coaches here in North America, it's their program, and they might be a little standoffish. I learned this from my brother years ago. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. So if we can develop sports scientists who can take the approach of educating the coaches, not trying to jam information down their throats, just here's the information. We're providing you coach, the information that we have, and here's what you can do with it. You're the one that has to make a decision on what you're going to do with it. So you're not telling them what to do. You're just giving them information so they can make the best educated decision possible when it comes to their athletes and teams.
Yeah, that delivery is huge. I've seen it firsthand.
So I'd really like to get that part of a program going, and then the flip side, obviously, facilities. I think with our hockey facility will come some good things, and that might play in the sports science piece a little bit too.
Yeah.
From a facility perspective there too. So I think those are the biggest things that I would have on my plate coming up.
Okay, fair enough. How can people reach out to you, follow you? How can they be a part of your journey?
Well, I don't know if it's much of a journey, but it's, my email, and you know what, that email is the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay.
Because that's I respond to that, and if I don't get to it, I leave the email in my inbox as a reminder.
Okay.
So sometimes when you're getting texts, they just sort of get pushed down.
For sure, yeah.
But my email is just Vork, the first four letters of my last name, VORK, at ath.msu.edu.
Okay.
I'm on Twitter quite a bit. I just like retweeting, feel good articles. And good things about our profession.
Yeah.
But it's just at Coach Vork on Twitter. So
okay. Fair enough. Well, Coach,
I better check that my Twitter account.
Before you give it out. Yeah. Fair enough. Well, Coach, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation. I'm definitely going to listen to this one. I say that all the time, but it's true. Every time I listen to it, I get something different. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to connecting you in the future.
Thanks, Juan. I greatly appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you soon. Thanks again to Coach Vorkapich for taking the time out of his busy day for this talk. He's one of those guys that's been doing it at a high level for 20 plus years, so he's doing something right. It's always refreshing to hear from people that have been in the field for a while, still adding skill sets, still progressing, and still pushing the profession forward. As always, if you enjoyed the podcast, please like, comment, share, and give it a rating so we can help get this thing out there to the people that are trying to find it. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, this is the Gamut of Performance Podcast.